when you do this every day and you don't like see what you look like while you're doing your routine, right? So just seeing like my interaction with the horses, like I know that that's what I do, but seeing me do that is just so funny. Like I can't explain it. It's and like even like the picture of my trainer and I walking and like drinking champagne out of the bottle. I do that all the time, but I don't see what I look like when I'm doing it. And then you know what's so funny? Like when this happened, I spilled water, and literally every day I'm spilling water. So it's just crazy because like now I have a photo of what I look like when I spill water. I showed some of the photos to my brother, and he goes, "You look posed." I'm like, "No, I don't. That's literally what I look like." He's like, "I'm just messing with you. I knew you'd hate it if I said that."
Yeah, for real.
Oh my gosh, this one's one of my favorites.
Let's see a short close down.
Okay. Because I literally kiss his nose constantly.
Oh my god.
I love that photo.
That's awesome.
It's such a good one.
What's going on? Really excited. I have my good friend here, Nayri. I had a chance to spend a whole day with her, and she does a lot. So excited to have you here. Thank you for allowing me to do this. Thank you for letting me in your home. So obviously we know you own this fashion boutique out in LA, but how did you get into horseback riding? Like, where did that come from? I think that's actually what I'm the most excited about. I think that's what people are excited about hearing.
Absolutely. So, and thank you for having me, by the way. It was a true honor having you ask to photograph a day in my life. Like, I still can't believe that you wanted to hang out with me for a full day. So thank you.
I'll do it again any day. Yeah.
So the horses. Horses have always been a part of my life, but the thing is that I didn't fully get into it because my parents didn't really know how to get me involved in it. Mm-hmm. So I got really lucky, and my uncle ended up marrying a woman who grew up on a farm, and she had a horse, and she taught me how to ride. Mm-hmm. And then I took some time off, and then when I was building Lovella, I was really suffering with migraines, ear pressure, migraine through ear pressure. I was losing my vision, so a migraine with aura, and I'd be out for several days. So after going to all these experts, they told me that I needed to change my lifestyle. So I started to assess all the things that I love.
So what was your lifestyle before?
Oh, goodness.
Before all of it? Just so I think it's good for people to have context.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe what is it that, like something kind of what you do or what you used to do,
Sure.
and then what the change looked like.
I love that. So what I used to do is that I would feel guilty if I wasn't working. Mm-hmm. Nobody put that pressure on me. It was something that I put on myself. Mm-hmm. So I was working 6 days a week, and when I took the one day off, wasn't really a day off, I was still connected. I didn't know how to disconnect. Right. And that was also me just being young, but then now I realize there are also people that it doesn't matter your age, it's just like a hard wiring thing.
It's a habit that you've built in.
Correct. Yeah. So it was really unhealthy. I was very obsessed with what I was doing and the success of it, and more importantly, I just cared about the people that I was impacting, and I felt like if I wasn't working harder than everybody else, I wasn't going to be able to make as much of a difference. Right. So
I can relate to that. I get where that comes from.
Totally. So it wasn't healthy, and so that led to a lifestyle of isolating myself from friends because I didn't make time for them, or just even relationships in general, family, whatever. Yeah. I just felt like if I wasn't working, I wasn't succeeding, and it just was really not good in all aspects of my life. So
but that's what you knew. That's just what you knew to be as successful as you wanted to be. Yeah. That's just what you knew to serve your clients or serve your people. Like that just came natural to you.
Absolutely. Like that was just it. It's just so weird because like I said, if I wasn't doing that, I felt like I was failing. Like I felt guilty having time away and feeling happy without it.
And then even if you had time away, it's like, what do you do with that time away?
Yeah.
It's like, who are you as a person? It's like sometimes it's hard to figure out.
I had no idea. Like I had no clue. So then my body started telling me like, hey, this isn't working. So then I was forced to go to all these doctors and try to chase it, and then they were giving me all these different things to do, and none of it was truly working until one neurologist told me that I just have to change my entire lifestyle. She gave me all these medications. She's like, log every time that you get a migraine, but really you need to change your lifestyle. You have a great work ethic, and that's phenomenal, but that's not going to serve you or your body. So you need to take care of yourself. So that was the big turning point in which I assessed, okay, what are all the things I love to do and I don't make time for?
Right.
And then from there, I just started to kind of figure it out. It took time. I mean, you can't just go living life one way
Of course,
and then
yeah.
changing it.
But you had this realization that you knew that something needs to shift in order for you to just take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Which is the first step, like just building awareness of what needs to happen.
Yeah, and also I think the biggest struggle, well, I know the biggest struggle was the guilt part, that I had to get rid of that feeling that it's okay for me to have fun. It's okay for me to enjoy. I can still be successful without having to work 24/7.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it's just that mentality that like you gotta hustle harder. But it's like I feel like you gotta hustle smarter, because I'm sure now you're probably 10 times more successful than you were before.
Oh, totally.
And you still probably work hard. It's just you're just working at a different frequency.
Exactly. And I found that I work even smarter when I do take time for myself, because I have more mental clarity. I'm not so mentally burned out.
Right. Yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had this, you were super stressed out, you were overwhelmed, all these things were happening in your life. Then you went and you got pretty much, you needed to take time for yourself. And then, so how did horses come? Like, what was your first time you're like, like you started riding, or you're like, oh, I really like this, or I really enjoy this? When was that moment of like, almost like clarity for you?
Sure. So my aunt had recently gotten a horse, and she was talking to me about all the fun things that it had been a few years since she got him, and they had won, they went reserve champion at nationals, and they just had all this really great success. And it looked like so much fun. So I thought, you know what, horses are something that I've always loved, and it's always been a childhood dream of mine to own a horse. But my parents have always said it's so expensive, it's a liability, like you don't want to take that on. You can ride, but don't own one. That's kind of the mentality they had. But my childhood dream was to own one. So I called my aunt one day and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. She's actually the one who referred me to the neurologist to begin with, because she's in medicine. And she said, well, why don't you just come with me to the barn? You can hop on Maverick, her horse, and just see where it goes. So I did that, loved it, begged my trainer, and she's like, you're an adult. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Are you, like, you sure? And I'm like, no, like, I want to do this. So after some time, my trainer was like, okay, fine, let's do this. So I started where the kids start. I mean, I was on the most beginner horse. So talk about like a humbling.
I was going to say, very humbling.
Such a humbling experience, because literally like the 5 to 10-year-olds are on this horse, and I'm the one adult and I'm with all these other adults that have been riding for years.
Yeah.
So
and it's that judgment, like, oh, I wonder what they think of me, like, what's going on. But you're just like, you just enjoy it. You're just enjoying it.
I did, and I thought, look, what do I have to lose? I have everything to gain, nothing to lose. I'm learning something new as an adult. I think that's good for your brain too, right? It stimulates it in different ways. It requires you to think differently, and at the end of the day, like, you're on an animal, so anything can happen.
Right.
So just that whole mindset of something new and so unfamiliar and yet so humbling, because you're an adult.
Yeah.
And as adults, you think that sometimes you know everything, but you don't. I knew nothing.
Of course.
Like, I had to learn everything.
And I think because you came from that place, like, you were just open to the experience. And I think sometimes in life, there's so many things that we want to do, but that fear of like looking bad or being judged, that just stops us.
Yeah.
But I love for you, it was just like, it actually, you took that and you made it something else. You made it actually like excitement, so you want to do things. I think that's something great that people could learn from.
Totally. Well, and it's crazy. I hadn't been on a horse in 10 years. And it was a completely different style of riding. So even though I was comfortable around horses, it was just a whole new ballgame. But it's exactly that,
Okay, so you rode, you fell in love. And then when did you then decide, hey, listen, like, I'm going to invest the time, the effort, the energy into owning my own horse? And what did that feel like when you first got your horse?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my trainer said, listen, like, we compete, we do all these things. So she let me compete a few times on one of her national champion horses, which was really cool. And I did decent.
And what's the kind of competition? Because I know it and I saw it, but I don't know if everyone else will know what that looks like.
So we ride Arabians, and half Arabians and purebred Arabians, and essentially I ride hunter. So we just go around in an arena. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, but we go around in an arena, and a judge calls certain things that you need to do. So you're being judged. It depends which, we call them classes. It depends which class you're in, whether you as the rider are being judged or the horse is being judged, or both of you together as a team. So it's pretty much based on like how smoothly you pick up your transitions, the timing in which you do it, staying at the proper speed, being on the right diagonal and lead, which is like the movement of the horse, and then your movement. And then they judge based on that. So sometimes it's judged on quality, consistency. It just depends what you sign up for to compete in, essentially. So it's pretty cool. And again, it's an animal. Things happen in the stands where people are not familiar with horses, make noises. Your horse gets spooked. You could potentially lose a class.
Right.
So there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Okay.
So then I started to compete. And I loved it because it was something for you to work towards. And it's like, okay, great, you're riding, you're improving. But now that I've improved and I'm pretty decent of a rider, I mean, I wasn't great at that. You know, I'm still like, you're always learning. You're never done. But as I started to get better, my trainer looked at me. She's like, look, I don't really have any horses for you to be showing on because there's other people that own, you know, certain horses and whatever. So at the time there wasn't any, and there still isn't, any horses I could really show. So if I wanted to continue to grow and do this, I needed to invest in a horse, which I've always wanted. So I started looking, and it's crazy. Horse shopping is the craziest thing ever.
What makes this so crazy?
Well, you're riding these different horses and you have to click. Each horse feels different. So you want to go with one that you enjoy riding, and you have like about 5 to 10 minutes to figure that out. And then they have to pass a vet check. And it's up to you, because every horse has something.
Yeah.
It's like, what risk are you willing to take after you get the vet check? And you have to pay for that vet check. So you're investing money into a horse that may or may not pan out, and then you have to make that decision.
Right.
So I probably went through, like, the first time, I probably went through 8 horses until Tango was the last horse, and it was the last day of the horse show in Scottsdale. And I was supposed to be on, like, a 6 o'clock flight, and it was, like, 3 o'clock in the afternoon that we were vet checking him, and I had the best ride on him than any other horse I had had. He fully passed vet check, and he was mine, just like that. And it happened, like, at a blink of an eye. I missed my flight. We drank champagne all night. We partied. We had got him insured. We figured out a way to get him home. And then I ended up driving back home the next day with my aunt instead of flying. So
with Tango.
No, we had somebody else bring Tango.
Okay.
Yeah, because we didn't have enough room in the trailers that we were there with, because all the horses.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah, so that was the first time around. And then the second time around, when I bought Charlotte, which is the day that you saw, that was the day that she came home. That was my first time seeing her. Second time seeing her ever, but first time seeing her since she got home. Yeah. And that was at a blink of an eye. I rode her, and I had the biggest smile on my face. She was so cool and so fun to ride. Passed vet check, brought her home.
That's awesome.
I know.
And you know, one thing I realized when I was looking at the pictures, like, obviously I spent the whole day with you, but when you're with, like, Tango or Charlotte, like, nothing else mattered.
Nothing.
Like, you were honestly like a little kid, right? Like,
Yep.
even though, like, you're mature and you're professional and you're all these things, and I don't know if people see you in that light, but you were, like, so focused, and, like, if I saw someone like, okay, this person's in love, like, that's what I felt like, dude, like, she is totally in love right now. And, like, you spent, like, it was quite a bit of time, like, maybe 3-4 hours you spent out there, and, like, it didn't feel like that. I definitely thought, you're probably just like, I want, like, even as much time as possible. Like, I thought it was gonna be, okay, it's quick, it's 1 hour, but then when I saw how much, like, you love them and admire them, it's just like, well, this is, like, I've actually never experienced a connection like that, so.
It's wild.
I guess that's where, now owning your own 2 horses, I feel like that's so how has that now helped you, like, in your life? Like, how has that helped you with your own mental health?
It really helps so much. Oh my gosh, because just like you said, it's such a connection, and it's such a love that when I'm there, nothing else matters. It really doesn't. And I could be there for hours, and it doesn't feel like it. And I remember the morning when you started taking photos, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is weird. And I even made a comment, I'm like, this is weird. And you're like, you're gonna get used to it. By the time we got to the horses, I forgot you were there. I, like, was just doing my thing. And I totally forgot. And the horses are just, it's my therapy. It really is. Like, nothing else quite compares to that. I do a lot of yoga too, but there's something that the horses give back to you that I can't quite explain the bond. And it's so different when it's your own horse. Like, it's so cool because this past Tuesday, my day was exactly the same as what you saw pretty much. For the first time, Charlotte responded to her name.
Oh, wow.
So when I walked up to them, I said, Tango, I said, Charlotte, Tango, and they both stuck their heads out. And all the other horses kept their heads in. So just, like, little stuff like that, it makes me so happy. And I think it makes me work harder because it gives me something outside of work to strive for. And I'm that type of person where I need something to constantly keep pushing me and growing me and challenging me.
Totally.
Because if I don't, then I become stagnant and then I feel like I have no purpose.
Yeah.
So it helps with that. So when I feel really excited about the horses, I show up to work more excited. Because it's like, okay, a challenge here, a challenge there, in a good way. Like, not where it's breaking me down, but building me up.
Right. And I feel like it refuels you, it allows you to do more of the things that you love instead of just getting burnt down, getting stuck doing the things maybe at work you just didn't enjoy.
Totally.
But you felt like you just had to be there and to do it.
Absolutely.
And I love like that you're just so goal oriented. And I think I can't remember. I don't think we actually kind of even know where exactly what point we connected in.
Yeah.
But I think that's something maybe just like we just connected on because I'm the same way. Like I love having a goal and working towards it, like building up to it.
Yeah.
And you're exactly the same way.
I know.
Yeah. So there's a beauty to it.
Totally.
But I think there's also a downside, and I think that downside was before in the situations that you were in before.
Yeah, it was that I only had Lovella before, right? Where now I have different things that motivate me in different ways and challenge me mentally and physically in different ways.
Totally.
Just makes me stronger as a whole.
I love that. So let's talk about your career and what you actually do, how you got into it, and what your passion for that is.
Okay, cool. So Lovella has been, well, no matter what, I would have been in fashion regardless. And I loved bridal because I enjoy different cultures, different religion. I love learning about people. That being said, I loved that for the wedding day, I get to combine fashion, tradition, and culture all in one.
Totally.
And it's also the most important article of clothing a woman ever wears. So the fact that I get to be involved in picking that was everything to me. And when I had the opportunity to be involved in growing Lovella to a completely different type of business, because originally there were 2 small locations and we combined the 2 into one big one. And being involved in the design, picking the inventory that was going to go there, I wear so many hats. Marketing, advertising, social media. I'm responsible for educating the team and keeping everybody in tune. The journey of the customer, the process in which our customers go through, which is always evolving and changing. That's all stuff that I do. And then I have Christina, who manages the store, and I could not function without her. And then there's Angie. So nothing gets complete unless all 3 of us agree. Yeah. And I really love that. And also we want to make sure like our team loves what we're doing. So it's really a co-creative environment where we all get to evolve, change, and grow and be a part of these brides' lives. So.
I love that. I think what I love is that a lot of people that I know, they're like, we want to get into fashion, but then they just don't know how to get into it. And I feel like sometimes weddings have this like almost negative connotation to it. It's like, oh, like I don't want to do weddings. Even as a photographer, before I used to be like kind of like, oh, I'm a wedding, like I shoot weddings. I used to be like I kind of hesitated, especially if talking to people in the editorial world. But it's like, no, we actually do like really awesome and dope work. And like even how you're saying it is one of the most important outfits. So I love that. That's how it occurs to you. Yeah. But so you went from 2 small locations. From what I remember, they weren't really operating as efficiently as they could have been.
Yeah, it was complicated because, we loved it because we took out one of our designers, Ines Di Santo, and they had created a boutique just for Ines Di Santo dresses. And then we had our original location, which was there since 1970.
Wow.
So it had been passed down, and it was great, but it was more in a residential area, so not as easily accessible. And our other location was actually in the Americana, where we're now across from the Americana. So it was great having that store because it then took the business to the next level of where we would just move across the street. We had already built a name in that community, and that worked really, really well. So it just made sense as we were growing and evolving and based on where we wanted to be to expand into a location across the street, and all the stars just aligned, and it ended up working out really beautifully. Sweet. So that's where we are today.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what else do you do? Because I know there's a few other things that you do. And the reason I'm asking this is because I feel like it's important for people to understand that like, you don't just have to be one thing. Like you don't have to vision your whole and like, hey, I just do weddings, or hey, I just like horseback ride. It's like there's other avenues and you can have multiple passions.
Totally.
But you just got to make sure they align, and like there's some underlying thought behind it.
So I also have a separate brand, Wedding Fashion Expert, and that was created because we saw brides coming into Lovella just really confused about how the process works and how soon they should buy their dress and what that whole thing looks like. And then I also realized the information they were coming in with, not only were they confused, but they were getting the wrong information from the internet. So I wanted to create a platform to help educate brides so that they know what they're doing and they're better prepared. So I ended up writing a book called I'm Getting Married and Have Nothing to Wear. It's the ultimate guide to finding your perfect bridal gown. And it's been really cool because not only have brides read it and been, it's really helped them. I had one of my brides when I first published the book, she's like, Nayri, even though I bought my dress from you, I still read the book and I was second guessing my wedding dress, and you have a chapter in there and literally that chapter is on repeat in my head constantly every time I second guess my gown. I'm like, oh my god, it's working. I just want to help people.
Totally.
So that was really cool, and then that evolved into a YouTube channel because I figured for those who don't want to read, they can listen and watch for some of the information. And then that evolved into stores, other bridal stores, loving the book, loving the YouTube channel, it being shared in private Facebook groups for bridal gown manufacturers and bridal store owners. And I realized that the stores want resources. They want help as well. And why wouldn't I help small businesses grow and thrive? So I then created an online course for bridal store owners or operators, because some owners don't operate the business. And it's been really neat being now a part of this separate community of no longer always being focused on the bride, but also being focused on these operators in different states and learning and growing from them and them learning and growing from me. It's just been a really neat transition, and so now I'm kind of all over the place, but but they all help each other. All of it feeds into each other.
I think the one thing that I think about that, and the thing that I think is beautiful is that, and even you can add more to this, is because some people it's I don't want to help someone else, because then they're gonna get that one up on me. And I know I never hear that from you, and I feel like a lot of people, that's what comes up to mind first. Hey, listen, if I help you, then what does that mean about me?
Sure.
Did that ever occur to you, or what does occur to you?
So I love that you asked that question, because when I told certain family or friends what I was doing, they were like, why would you want to help Lovella's competition?
Yeah.
Why would you want to help other stores? And the bottom line is why not? Why not help other people be successful? Because that's only going to make more brides happy. My primary goal is to make things simple, easy, and refreshing for whoever I encounter. So if those are brides, I can't reach every bride from Lovella. It's impossible for Lovella to reach the masses in that way. Geographically, it doesn't make sense. So if I can touch more stores that then touch more brides, it becomes this domino effect, and my primary goal is met. So no, it doesn't, I don't necessarily think about that. I think everybody can make money and everybody can grow. There's enough fish in the sea for everybody. I don't think that I need to be selfish with my successes. If I figured something out, and Lovella, not just me, but Lovella has figured something out, and that I can help another store not have to go through some of the trials and tribulations that we went through, why wouldn't I?
Yeah, I love that. It's just a cooperation approach. But then what do you say for people that might be struggling with that? They're like, hey, I want to get into education, or hey, I want to do more of this, and then they just have that fear in their mind that what if they get better than me, or what if I'm not good enough? What do you say to people like that?
So I had my own personal fear of, am I giving too much of me? I thought of that for a second. I'm literally giving away everything that myself and Lovella's team has worked for, right? I was giving so much. I didn't mind giving it. It was more so how people were going to treat it. Were they going to appreciate it? Were they going to apply it? Were they going to make a difference and take action in their lives? It was more so that. I never feared, and I also feared if people were going to like what I had to say. Because I keep it really real, and I pretty much tell you, even when I speak, I say, if you're not going to take action, this isn't for you. I'll be the first one to say this is not going to work. We're not mutually going to benefit one another. So I do like to keep it real, and I wasn't sure how well people were going to receive that. Did that answer your question?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I think it definitely went there. I think, but like, say someone's like, I need help doing this. Like, maybe people are stuck in this like selfish way of being.
I get it. Yeah.
What do you say for that, or what tips do you have for them so that they could kind of get out of that? Because the main thing that I'm hearing from you and when I interview so many people is that they're coming from a place of like service, right? And how do you add value?
Right.
But what advice do you have for that?
So I would say you need to read the book The Go-Giver.
Okay.
And it talks all about giving without expectation of receiving, because when you give, it makes your heart fuller. So it's also a mindset. And I never knew I was a go-giver. I'm naturally a go-giver, but then I read the book and I'm like, holy smokes, I'm really a go-giver. So I had my whole team read it.
Wow,
and so I would start there, because there's so much you can receive from giving when you don't expect to receive something in return for the gift.
I think that's the key one, because a lot of times people, they're giving, but it's like, okay, so now what do I get? What can you do for me?
Yeah.
And that intention from the beginning is not clear, that I'm just giving to give. And with nothing expected in return.
And I will say, absolutely, and I will say, like, I've also gotten to the point where I give so much and then I don't get anything in return, where I'm like, forget it. I'm done giving, because it's not beneficial to me. Not because I'm not receiving. It's more so it's physically and mentally exhausting for me to constantly give to someone that takes advantage of it. So there's that fine line of, you also want to give to people that really appreciate it. Because if you're going to give and they're going to take advantage and be kind of nasty, that's not the person I want to give to.
Got it.
You know what I mean? So sometimes I have to end relationships because I'm like, okay, I'm happy to give without receiving anything in return, but I'm giving and it's a little bit toxic.
So when do you know like that threshold is? Because I feel like a lot of people might go through that. Like, I give so much and then this happens, that happens. Like for you, when is that like, okay, like this is the threshold and I can't really, like, it needs to tone down or something needs to change?
Sure.
Like, when do you kind of like, what are flags that come up for you?
I think that the most of it's a feeling for me. I can just kind of feel it, so I can't really, but I think the best way for me to explain it is when I'm giving and I realize that giving doesn't make an impact. Like the second that I feel this isn't impacting that person in the way that it should, that's usually when I say, you know what, it seems as though no matter what I do, we're not gonna get, like, I can't help you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it comes to a point where you see that this is not impacting that person in any way. Like, let's, for example, say it's a bride and I'm giving solutions, right? I'm giving you solutions, I'm giving you options, I'm willing to do stuff for you, but you're still unhappy.
Right.
Okay, at this point, I feel like, I've given you everything and I just can't serve you anymore. No matter what I do, I can't serve your needs.
And I think that's important to know, but have you ever found that, like, sometimes like people are just not ready to receive at that time, but then they come back and be like, hey, like what you said was right, or that really helped. And so it's like you still, even though you're giving, they might not receive it, you still planted that seed for them that then grew like later on. Totally.
And that happens too. And sometimes you think you're giving with good intentions and that gets spinned around. So there's that component too. Like, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And sometimes that happens. Like, I think I'm giving something positive and then blows up in my face. So it's a fine line. But I think that if you just give from a pure place, good things are just going to happen.
Totally, yeah.
I just believe in that.
I love that. That's pretty much, I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
But let's say, I should have one final question. So this is a question I'm trying to ask everyone that I interview, is that the whole idea of this project is to really help connect humanity. So what do you think is the one thing that people need to do to kind of feel more deeply connected with other people?
That's such a good question. I think the one thing, I can just tell you what I do. When I feel like, sometimes I feel like I need to disconnect from humanity.
Which is good too.
I think that there's a fine line because I'm connected on a daily basis so deeply in people's lives, especially through the wedding process. Sometimes I need to disconnect, but I think that you need to be able to recognize which people and which parts of humanity feed your soul and make you a better person, and figure out ways to deeper connect with them. So like, for example, my yoga community, if I'm looking for something, like a solution to something, I'll go connect with them because they have like really mindfulness things to kind of give me. So I think that one component is that you need to be aware of what your needs are. What are you searching for? And even if you don't know, maybe surround yourself in an environment of people that are just kind of hanging out and you'll get inspired by that.
Yeah.
So I think that one thing is just be clear on what it is you're looking for, and then put yourself in those environments that can feed into that.
Totally, I love that.
And if you don't know the environment, kind of go test them out. I'm also part of a business coaching and mentoring program. So if I'm like feeling frustrated at something in work, I go into that community. Like, hey, I need help here, or maybe I don't need help. I think someone else does. I'll reach out and say, hey, if anyone needs support, here's what I can do to help you, type of a thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
So where can people find you online if they want to follow you, see all your adventures? Where can they follow you?
Okay, so obviously Lovella Bridal, our website, our Instagram, it's all at Lovella Bridal, and then Wedding Fashion Expert has its own. So I have weddingfashionexpert.com, and then I'm pretty active on my Instagram, so at Wedding Fashion Expert.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so honored.
Oh my God, I can't wait to put this together.
I keep saying thank you, and I feel like thank you isn't enough. So thank you.
I know. I think when you're really gonna appreciate it is in like 5 years from now.
When I get to look back on it.
Yeah, when you look back on it, that's when it's like I feel like it really comes together. But honestly, I'm really grateful. Like I learned so much that day. It was just a lot of fun to hang out with you, and I'm sure we're gonna do more stuff.
We have to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.